We have test coming up a week from today. So we have two small sections that we'll finish up today. It's 1.7, solving inequalities, and then 1.2, talk a little bit about circles, not much, but a little bit about circles. I have a practice test posted on WebAssign. Well, test one review is what it's named. And it's optional. It's not worth any points. It's just a study tool. So if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. I mean, it is there. And then what we'll do Tuesday is I'll work through the problems off of the test review, and then if you have other questions, we can talk about those on Tuesday. Then Thursday will be test day. Our upcoming schedule. Anybody have any problems from WebAssign we need to work? Got one? Yeah, I can pull up the assignment. Which one's it from? Okay. Okay, the 1.6. All right, gotcha. Number 12. Let's see. Okay, so we've got a radical equation. Let's zoom that in a little more. And if we get more than one solution, it says we can put our answers in with commas in between it, but work it and see what we get. So x minus square root of x minus 1 Our general strategy on these, when we have a radical, we want to get the radical by itself. And then we'll if it's a square root, we'll square both sides. So on this one, let's see, we can subtract x from both sides. Okay. And a couple ways you could go about it from here. It is a little bit different because we've got the negative out in front of the square root. Okay. We should be able to just square both sides as long as we include the negative with the radical. So, if you didn't want to do that, you could switch the signs on both sides so we can make it positive square root of x minus 1, and on the other side we would have minus 7 plus x. I'm just going to try squaring both sides. Square that side, square this side. So on the left side, not only does the square root cancel out, but when we do the negative times the negative, we get positive. So we'll have x minus 1. And on the right side, you just have to remember, this is not going to be 7 squared minus x squared. If we have 7 minus x squared, that means 7 minus x times 7 minus x. I have to do FOIL. It's easy to forget. So if we FOIL that out, when we do the outer terms, we'll get negative 7x. When we do the inner terms, we'll get negative 7x. So that totals up to negative 14x. Plus x squared. Get the math there. Okay. Then we have a quadratic, because we have an x squared term. I need to get everything all on one side, so since I have less stuff on the left, I'm going to move the stuff on the left over to the right, but you could do it the other way if you wanted to. So, and then I'm going to just switch the order of my terms over here into that standard order that we use with the x squared term first. So I've got to subtract x from both sides, so that with minus 15x, and then add 1 to both sides, so I get plus 50. Okay. And from there, we can do quadratic formula. It may factor. Yeah, it'll factor. So since it'll factor, that's what I'm going to do on this one. You could do quadratic formula if you prefer it. We need factors of 50. That will give us negative 15 in the middle. So we can do negative 10 and negative 5. And we can take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve. We get 2 potential solutions. We need to check them in our original and make sure we don't get anything weird. So x minus square root of x minus 1. So if we check this, if we have 10, that one's going to work, right? Because it'll be 10 minus the square root of 9, which is 3, equals 7, so that one's good. Try it with 5. And that one will have 5 minus 2 equals 7, and that doesn't work. That one's, yeah, that one. Think that helped? Gotcha, yeah. Yeah, it looks a little different than one. They have other ones? Okay. Alrighty. We'll get into the new stuff then. So first, both of these sections are short, so we'll get both of them done today. So first, we're going to look at 1.7, solving inequalities. We just want to be able to solve some basic inequalities. We're not getting too crazy with it. Well, they'll just be linear. We won't have any quadratic inequalities that we deal with. So nothing too bad. So really, a lot of the stuff we use when we're solving equations, it still applies when we're solving inequalities. So the difference, we're thinking about things like this. Instead of having 8x equals 9, 8x is less than or equal to 9. Inequality. So if that was an equal sign, what would we do to solve for x? Yeah, divide both sides by 8. Okay, we can do the same thing here. Divide both sides by 8. We don't get a nice whole number or anything. We get 9 over 8 there. So the major difference in what we're dealing with when we get to the end of these things is that with equations, we get, if it's linear, we get one solution, or if we have polynomial equations, we could get several solutions. But with inequalities, we really have an infinite number of solutions, because any number on the number line, on the real number line, that's smaller or the same as 9 over 8, 1 and 1/8, if you want to think about it that way, is a solution. So to represent that, this is one way. And we can say all the x values that are less than or equal to 9 over 8. That's one way. Another way we could represent our solution set is to have a number line, and we could take this number 9/8, put it on our number line, and then we could shade on the number line where our solutions are. So in this case, since it says x could be equal to 9/8, we would include 9/8, so we would have a closed-in circle at 9/8. So we're including that as part of our solution. And then which way would less than 9/8 be? Be to the left. You know, smaller values are on the left, and so we would just shade something like that. And we've got one other way we want to be able to express our solutions, and that is in what we call interval notation. And the interval notation is when we, you've seen it before, when we have parentheses or brackets we use around a couple of numbers to talk about where a piece of the number line starts and stops. So for this one, to write down our interval notation, you want to start off thinking about how small our solutions can be. So our shading, even though we can't draw it that far, our shading goes all the way to negative infinity. That goes forever to the left. So we would say the smallest our solutions could be here, we would call negative infinity. So I would write a parenthesis and then negative infinity. So we can go forever to the left. And then I'm going to have a comma. And then I want to talk about how big my solutions can be. So go in that direction, I have to stop somewhere because it's not the whole number line. So what's the biggest number that would be a solution here? 9/8, 9/8. So I would stop at 9/8. And on this one, since 9/8 is included as part of our solution, we would use a bracket, square bracket. So the square bracket comes into play when we have the or equal to part of the inequality. If it just said x is less than 9/8 without that equal bar on there, then on the right side we would have another parenthesis. So a bracket is if you're including that number, parentheses if you're not including that number, with one little caveat. If you have infinity or negative infinity, they are always paired up with a parenthesis. Always paired up with a parenthesis. Kind of the philosophy behind that is infinity is not really a number, so we can't actually get there. Just an idea. So we can't say we're including infinity as part of our solutions. We're just saying they go all the way to infinity. Keep going forever. There's one. And we want to be able to do all three. So if you have a challenge in this section, it's probably going to be the interval notation, getting familiar with it. Let's look at another one. Here's an inequality. Okay. Another short one to solve. We would divide both sides by 6. That'll give us x is less than or greater than, sorry, I wrote the wrong way. Greater than or equal to 3. So for the number line, we're looking at 3. And we want everything from 3 or bigger. And we are including 3 again. So we'll have a solid circle at 3. This time we want to shade the values that are greater than 3, so we would shade the right. Then what about our interval notation? So what's the smallest x phase that's part of our solution on this one? 3 is the smallest this time. And we're including 3 because we have or equal to. So we'll have a bracket with 3. And then how big can our solutions get? They go forever, so toward infinity. So we can write infinity, and then the infinities always have a parenthesis. To me, especially if the interval notation is confusing to you, I really like doing the number line first and then doing the interval notation. WebAssign asks for the interval notation first and then gives you the number line, but you don't have to do them in order. You can do the number line part first and then do the interval notation, if that helps you. Look at another one. Then we'll have to do a little bit more work to solve. One. Just use our rules like it's an equal sign. So go ahead, add 4 to both sides. 3x is greater than 24. And divide both sides by 3. X is greater than 8. Our number line. This time it's just a little bit different because we don't have the or equal to sign. So we're actually not including 8 as part of our solution. We want just everything that's bigger than 8. So when I do my number line, since I'm not including 8, I'll have an open circle. 8. And then I want everything greater than 8, so again I would shade to the right. But just slightly different on the number line. It's open circle if you don't have the equal bar, closed circle if you do have the equal bar. And what about interval notation? So for my smallest x that could be in my solution, we're starting at 8, but we're not including 8. So the way we write that down is we'll have 8 with a parenthesis. And then again, our solutions get as big as we want them to, so it goes to infinity. Infinity always has a parenthesis. So parenthesis there because we don't have the equal bar, we're not including 8. Our solutions are everything bigger than 8. Question on that one? Okay. What about one like this? This one, negative 8x is bigger than 4. This one brings into play one of the only differences between solving equations and solving inequalities. Most of the time, you can just go about business as usual and treat the inequality symbol just like an equal sign. There's really only one big exception, and that is if you multiply or you divide both sides by a negative number. Anybody remember what we have to do? We got to flip the sign. We got to flip the sign. So here, in order to solve for x, we've got to divide by negative 8. Since we're dividing both sides by a negative number, we're going to flip the inequality, so we end up with x is less than -4/8 or -1/2. So if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, that's when you have to flip the inequality. Other than that, you can just treat it just like an equal sign. Then we make our number line for this one. I'll have -1/2 on here somewhere. And again, we don't have the equal bar, so at -1/2 I'll have an open circle. And this time we want less than, so we'll shade to the left. And what about interval notation? So what's the smallest x value I can have in my solution? Yeah, it goes forever to the left, so there's not a limit on that. We can go all the way to -infinity. Always has a parenthesis. And then how big can I get? Go all the way up to -1/2. Right, because we got to stop when we get to the -1/2. But then we're actually not not including -1/2, so questions on those? The only other thing you have to deal with is most of these I did real simple ones solving, but maybe you'll have one that takes you 2 or 3 steps to solve, but it's not bad. Let me show you how to do that on how to do the number line and how to get the interval notation on WebAssign. WebAssign doesn't really like touch screens, so let me get a mouse. Let's see. All right, so WebAssign will just give us the inequality there, and then it asks us for our solution in interval notation in the box, and then it asks us to graph it on the number line. The same thing we've been doing. Again, you can do the number line part first if you want to. You don't have to stick with the order that WebAssign gives you the answer boxes. So on this one, it's pretty easy to solve. One step, right? We'll have x is less than or equal to 4/3. With my number. So interval notation. Let me say I might have to zoom out. Yeah. You can use the little set button over here on the right, and then it'll have the parentheses and the bracket combinations that you need over there. So for x is less than or equal to 4/3, and that's going to go forever to the left, and then I've got an equal on the right, so I would use a parenthesis on the left and a square bracket on the right. And then to do the infinities, I think there's a I think you can type infinity in if you want to, but there's also a button over here. Right? So we could do negative and then the infinity. Put our comment. I don't know where the comma's at on this keyboard. I don't know, it's weird on touchscreen keyboard. And I put the comment in and put the 4/3. Okay. For the shading part, okay, on this one we would have a solid circle. Okay, so I'd want a solid circle at 4/3, which is 1 1/3. So just a little bit past 1, somewhere in there. You don't have to be perfectly exact. You do have to be kind of close, but you don't have to be perfectly exact. And then to do the shading, you'll just go to this draw button. It looks like a pencil writing on something. And then you just click on whichever side. If you want to shade to the left, you click on the left side of your dot. If you want to shade to the right, you click on the right side of your dot. It's not too bad. Okay. Questions on those? Sure, quiet. All right. That's that section. The other little small topic we want to talk about in section 1.2, so out of order, and I'm going to talk a little bit about circles. Not too much. I want you to be a little bit familiar with some circle stuff. For the most part, any of you know that you have to go on and take 113, have to take trigonometry? Don't know? So you can get a lot of your circle information in trigonometry if you need it. We do touch on them here a little bit. Okay. So the main thing we're focusing on is just the equation of a circle, what it looks like. Okay. So we'll look at that. So two of the important values when dealing with circles are where the center is located and what is the radius of your circle. How far is it from the center till you actually get to the graph of the circle? Radius of r. And so if we have a circle with a radius at h comma k, the radius is r, and the way our equation of our circle looks is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and then equals r squared. So maybe I should do these in different colors here. X minus h, y minus k, r squared. So the h, k, and r are just numbers. H is the x coordinate of the center, k is the y coordinate of the center, and then r is the radius. So really all we want to be able to do is we want to be able to take some information about a circle. If we're told here the center of a circle is at this point and the radius is this, what's the equation of the circle? And we want to be able to go the other way. Here's the equation of a circle. What's the center? What's the radius? Okay, so let's look at a couple. So let's look. So we want to find equation of a circle. I guess we'll say the circle. I'm going to find the equation of the circle with the center 3, 2, radius of 5. So all we're really doing, we're just plugging into this standard form of a circle. So the x-coordinate of my center is at 3, the y-coordinate of my center is at 2, and then my radius is 5. So when I write down the equation, it's going to be x minus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared is going to equal 5 squared. Okay. Or you could write that part as 25. It doesn't matter. You can write it either way. See where the numbers are going, where they're coming from? As long as you got that part, that's not too hard. That's it. Sometimes people try to pull these out. You don't have to do that because we just want it in standard form. Okay? You could FOIL out both of these terms and rewrite everything, but it's unnecessary. This is good. Okay, look at it now. Let's go the other direction on one. So we're going to be given a circle equation. We want to find the center and the radius. So here's our equation. We want to figure out what the center and the radius of that circle is. All right, so for the center, we're going to have a point, right, x comma y. The thing to be a little careful of is that if we look back at our standard form, it says for the center it's x minus h and y minus k. So to figure out the coordinates here, we really want it to be subtracting something. So another way you could write this is you could write this as x minus -2. So what's our x coordinate of our center going to be? -2. It's going to be -2. Whatever we're subtracting. And if you just remember, you can just remember that if it's plus, you change it to minus, then your answer is positive. That's fine. Remember, you take the opposite sign. And then what's our y coordinate of our center? Y minus 1, so our y coordinate is just 1, just 1. And then for our radius, you just need to remember if we look back at our standard form, that number over there is r squared. Our radius squared. So how can we find our radius? Square root, yeah. Take the square root of 49. Give us our radius of So our center is -2, 1. Radius is 7. Okay. Questions on that one? Is that sign thing with the center a little tricky? Not too bad if you remember you got to take the opposite. I got to take the opposite. Let's look at another one. All right, let's do +5. Huh? Throw you a little curve on this one. We're thinking about the center on this one. Let's start with the x-coordinate. What's the x-coordinate going to be? -5, yeah. -5, good. And then make you think a little bit. What's our y-coordinate going to be? Our y-coordinate is whatever we're subtracting from y. Are we subtracting anything from y? No, so what number is nothing? 0. Our center on this one's at -5, 0. So if you don't have anything with the x, it means the x-coordinate is 0. If you don't have anything with the y, that means the y-coordinate is 0. And then for the radius, what's our radius going to be? It's going to be 6. Yeah, square root of 36 is 6. Let's do one more going the other way, and then I'll show you how to do these on WebSign. So there's one where it wants you to actually graph the circle. Show you how to do that. I'm going to be lazy and just say find the equation. Okay, we have the center at -1, 2, and our radius is 2. Okay. Then if we want the equation, we're going to have x minus our x-coordinate, which is -1, squared. If you see right away that you can write that as x plus 1, that's fine. Plus y minus our y-coordinate, which is 2, squared. And then our radius squared would be 2 squared. And this one we can clean up a little bit. We can, instead of having the double negative, we can write it x plus 1. And then we might as well, 2 squared is 4. Question on those? Too bad, we're not getting crazy with the circle stuff. So we didn't get crazy with the inequalities either. So kind of small topics here. Okay, so let's look at how these look in WebSign. So we got 6 problems in 1.7, and then I just have a few in the 1.2 assignment. So that's about the same as having one normal assignment. See how many I got in there. I've got 5 in that one, so 12 total problems from today. So it's not any worse than a normal day, even though we're doing 2 sections. Let's look at this one. Okay? So let's just do it, and then we'll make the graph. So this one wants to know where the center is. One thing to pay attention to, if you're not careful, it'll trip you up because you're just not paying attention. It already has the parentheses, and so you don't have to put parentheses for the point in there. You just have to put the x coordinate, comma the y coordinate. Sometimes I'll have people say, I don't know why I'm getting this wrong because they're putting parentheses in there again. Just keep an eye out for that. So where's our center going to be on this one? 0 for x, and then 0 for y. Okay. And then our radius is going to be 3. Radius is going to be 3. Yeah, good. So when we go to make our graph, okay, you can just put in 0, 0 here and 3 there. Okay. When we go to make our graph, this is the only one that you just have one of these. We said our center is at 0, 0, so we'll click the center. And we said the radius is 3. So what we need to do is we need to move over from the center 3 points. Okay? And click that to make the circle. So you just click on the center first, and then move over however many units the radius is. Click again, and it'll make the circle for you. Okay? That's a little bit weird, right? That's not how you might be expecting to graph the circle, so I wanted to show you. Not too bad. And if you mess up, just hit the clear all thing, because if you start trying to like take one point away and stuff like that, WebAssign gets cranky sometimes. So if you have like an extra point on the graph or something, it'll be mad. So clear it. Yeah. Questions? Okay, we're out of stuff for test 1, so that's it. If you have questions on any of the assignments or anything you want to hang around, I'm here. Okay? So we'll do practice test Tuesday, test Thursday.